Hello, everybody, and welcome to Train of Thought. I'm Jonii, your conductor, and I've gotten a report that one Aural Nadia is producing disproportionate amounts of garbage, and I must ask that she dispose of those properly, whether by comboing or other means.
And I'm Daro. I heard there was a broken ice cream machine on this truck. This truck?
This truck of thought?
AJ, cut that out. And I'm Daro. I heard there was a broken ice cream machine on this train, and, I don't really feel like fixing it right now.
You don't feel what? I think you need to turn your noise gate down, buckaroo. AJ, cut this part out. Can we call this episode AJ Cut This Part Out?
Good job. Look, still cut this part out. It's on my Audacity WAV file, it's fine.
Okay, I don't need to know what you said until later. But there is a third person.
Oh, hi. I'm Jon. I'm the creator of S-Video. You know, there's
Oh my god.
Standard Composite. I did the one after that. I
Is
think
that
that's what
the,
I'm most well known for.
That's
Is it the yellow cable or the white cable?
No,
So
the black cable.
No. So yellow, white, and red. That's just standard ass composite.
Yeah.
I did the thing after that. So the black cable with the few little fangs inside. It makes your video quality a bit better. Not SCART level, but it's still pretty good.
Yeah.
I think for the time I did a pretty good job with that.
That's an achievement, I think. You can't take that
Yeah.
away from you. How'd you feel when they eventually came around with Component?
You know, it was a day, because I was quite proud with S-Video, especially in the Americas, where it's the dominant superior video. That's what it stands for, superior video. And then all of a sudden, this guy comes waltzing in with Component, and he can do 720p and 1080i and even 1080p later down the line, and it took a toll on me, to be honest.
Yeah, I hear you. It's tough when someone kind of stomps all over your legacy, especially if that person's name is Mark Component.
It's the component opponent. Don't worry about it.
The Component opponent. Oh my god. Well, I think it's fitting you brought up video standards for American TVs, because the topic that I believe we've chosen today is gaming in PAL regions and the comparison betwixt that and gaming in the old NTSC where Daro and I are at.
Or as I like to call it, the sister show to gaming in the Clinton years, it's gaming in the PAL years.
Gaming in the PAL years. Was PAL one of the presidents?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, like
I don't think there's any president that's been my pal quite yet. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Fair. That's fair. Famously, I'm not a Reagan enjoyer. I get comments about that, but anyway, the reason I kind of thought of this initially is I remember watching a video you did, Jon. I think, probably a while ago, when the old GVG channel was simply the Jon Cartwright channel, and I think you talked about Sonic 1.
I did, yeah. So, growing up, I remember with Sonic Adventure on the Dreamcast, it always popped up with a 50Hz and 60Hz toggle. I didn't know what that meant, but I always chose the higher number. But then as the years went on, they started releasing like Sonic compilations, like Mega Collection and Gems Collection. That's where I kind of first encountered like the original Sonic 1. And then later down the line, when we got like the PlayStation 3 collections, suddenly that version of Sonic 1 was way faster than the versions I was used to. And it clicked with me that games used to be slower. And then as I got into like my teenage years, I started collecting for legacy systems like Mega Drive and NES. And yeah, all those games were way slower than any like re-release or compilation at that time was portraying. And it turns out back in the 80s, 70s, 90s, things were just slower here because of TV standards. So basically every game just ran a little bit slower. And they would start to optimize them. So like with the Dreamcast in particular, they started the 60Hz standard, but many games would sort of be sped up a little bit to a custom for 50Hz, but it would never be quite full speed. And on like NES and Mega Drive, music suffered a lot. And Sonic 1's a great example of that, because it's literally just the same track, but slower.
That was something that stuck out to me when watching that, because I was like, oh yeah, it's slower, it's 50 hertz, but they didn't really accommodate for the music. They're like, no, the tempo can just tempo can just go down.
Yeah.
Slow it down. He's only the fastest thing alive.
Yeah, I thought it was always a gimmick, Sonic speed, because of that. Like, he makes me that the fastest thing alive is things all about speed, but I was always just of the mindset that it was just about momentum, because he was just a slow-ass little hedgehog when I was playing as him.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, yeah.
Yeah, so I've always seen him as like a momentum-based platform. I think that's what Sonic is meant to be in the first place. But speed was like never a component of how I saw Sonic. And it's kind of jarring now playing the 60 Hz version, because it just feels like it's way faster than what I'm used to.
Yeah, I didn't think about that because, like you mentioned, like pretty much all the other games, like everything was running at 50 Hz for a while. Did you notice? Well, actually, I guess before I ask this question, I'll ask. I suppose with Mega Collection, it sounds like that was using the original PAL versions of those games.
Somewhat. The GameCube version wasn't. So the GameCube version was 60 Hz, but then the PS2 version, the expanded version with the Game Gear games and more stuff, that for some reason was 50 Hz, and I don't know why. And that's the version that I grew up with, the PS2 one.
Okay.
Yeah, so your GameCube, it brought us to American standards, but PlayStation 2 was like, no, we're not ready for that.
It's the early PlayStation 2 Sega game curse where everything just breaks.
The monkey's paw.
The monkey's ball.
The monkey. I was gonna say the monkey's ball paw, but I don't know. Having monkey ball and PS2 in the same sentence is a little traumatizing, I think, because that's slow no matter where you go. Although that's more of a frame rate issue and load screens. But I digress. It sounds like your first experience playing, I guess, the true Sonic one was on the PS3.
Yeah, the American one, I guess so, yeah. Yeah, that'd be my first full speed experience.
Did you, know going in why it was faster, or were you just like, oh my god, what
I
is
thought
happening?
it was busted. I thought they've broken this port. Sonic's not meant to be this fast.
It's like, what happened? I was gonna ask, too, with every game kind of accommodating for 50 Hertz, were there any other cases where you would notice with a later port, oh, this is, faster than it's supposed to be?
Yeah, I guess I kind of felt that with most re-releases. Banjo-Kazooie was one of them when that came to Xbox Live Arcade. But Banjo-Kazooie is a UK-made game, so Rare always did a really good job optimizing their games for 50 Hz. But it still didn't feel quite right. It still kind of felt weird and jarring playing the full-speed version. But as the years went on, though, 50 Hz generally was more optimized, the music wouldn't be slowed down. It would mostly be full speed. But you couldn't really get past the letterboxing as well, because that's another part of it.
Right.
It's not just speed. The actual aspect ratio and resolution is different. Because technically, PAL is capable of higher resolutions, but games didn't accommodate for that, so they just kind of squished it down to fit into the same resolution. So on our Wiis, when you go on the settings page and there's 480i, there's 480p. We had 480i, 480p, and 576i as well, which that only runs in 50 Hz. It can't do 60 Hz, and only a few games use it. But it's just staring at you on the menu. It's like, this is a higher number. It should be better, right? But it's still interlaced, so it's not progressive scan. So generally, it's not better. But it's there. It's lurking in the menu.
It's an option if you need it.
Yeah.
I suppose. Do you think that was included partially for that long because of older displays?
Yeah, I guess that's generally it. So I've got 2 CRTs in my room right now, and I have to be very selective when I get them because the vast majority of CRTs can only do 50 Hz. So you've got to look on the back at the power outage. It says 50 Hz or 60 Hz. So that's something you've got to look out for when you're trying to get your legacy stuff. And I think in the early 2000s, the majority of TVs could do both, but anything from late 90s, early 90s prior, it's kind of the Wild West to find a 60 Hz acceptable display. And how many people really upgrade their TVs every 5 years? A lot of people just stick with their family TV for a long time, and that's kind of it.
Right. Yeah. I was thinking about that because over here, that's the case with just some other things. I don't know how familiar you are, since it's in this country. You invented it though. A lot of the CRTs over here don't have S-video. I have one that does on the back, but a lot of TVs it is. I was gonna say it's just component or composite, which it is, but some of them, the one in my room, literally just has like the one audio jack, so it's like it's very very primitive. But then like there are like the weird like later CRTs. I know like HD CRTs were a thing for a while.
Yuck.
Those are an interesting beast. Do you have strong feelings on those, Daro?
That doesn't sound like it should be possible.
Oh, they're not great. We my friend Sam and I actually his uncle I think was trying to get rid of an old TV, and it was a fucking HD CRT, which just means it's huge and bulky, like every CRT is. It was incredibly awkward to carry. I hurt my hand on it, but it's also widescreen, and
Dude,
some people.
You get the new 3D CRT, bro.
Oh my god, could you imagine?
You don't need glasses.
Finally, I can watch Shrek 4D as intended. But no, it's like, it's a weird thing, because I remember being like, what the heck is this thing? And thinking like, oh, this is it. This must be like the end-all, be-all, where this is as good as it can get for some games. And it's not. It's really not. It has a lot of the same issues like a flat screen would with retro games, to my knowledge. And it's awkward, and it doesn't fit the aspect ratio if it's a console that can only display in 4:3, so it just kind of sucks.
I think most HD TVs can't support light guns as well, like even CRTs. I'm pretty sure they have problems with it still. And that's the coolest part about a CRT.
Yeah, right. I didn't even think about that. But I don't know. Like, it must be... I'll have to ask my friend Will about that sometime, because he's like the CRT expert. But like, that's, to my knowledge, it just must be something about the inner workings of the CRT, where in ways like that it operates closer to what you would think of as like a modern TV, but it has all the baggage of being a big heavy CRT. So yeah, it's a wild world out there if you're trying to play retro games already, and I can imagine, having to deal with the 50-60 hertz discrepancy is just an added part of that.
Yeah, I mean, in my collection, I have multiple region consoles specifically to get around 50 hertz. So I've got 3 Super Nintendos. I've got the all regions: European, American, Japanese.
Sure.
Japanese ones because the games are dirt cheap, but the American one is just literally to play them in 60 hertz. Same for the Mega Drive. I've got a Genesis, and I've been modding some consoles recently too. Like my Saturn has a 60 hertz switch now, and with PS2, I'm generally trying to play NTSC games rather than PAL, and the same for GameCube. Because while GameCube generally mostly has 60 hertz games, there's still some 50 hertz ones thrown in there. That was kind of the last generation that barrier in. So I'm pretty much, like, with my collection, I've pretty much caught up to most of it being 60 hertz now, which is great.
Yeah.
And I guess handhelds were always our savior, because
Right.
that's just a standard globally. There's no 50 hertz handheld.
The benefit of European handheld games is that you get the multi-language support.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
So theoretically, it's the best version of that handheld game, unless they name it something stupid like Yoshi's Universal Gravitation.
I knew you were gonna shit on Yoshi's Universal Gravitation.
This is most of my knowledge of the PAL NTSC difference, by the way, is all of the weird renames, and we're gonna get to it, I bet.
I was gonna say we could even transition into it, because I'm familiar with a couple. I'm sure John is familiar with more. But are you telling me you're not a fan of Gateway to Glimmer?
What's your Donkey Kong Wii racer called in America?
Isn't it Donkey Kong Barrel Blast?
Yes. Yes, Barrel Blast.
We call that Donkey Kong Jet Race.
What do you mean?
That's great. The first thing, honestly, I thought of, not even Universal Gravitation was the Sonic 3 box art for Europe.
Oh yeah.
Where
Yeah,
It's
he's got
just-
4 fingers up.
yeah, and the really weird Sonic 3 logo that is like made of metal.
Yeah.
It just makes me think about the dumb bit in Sonic Adventure where Eggman holds up 2 emeralds and he goes, 4, count them, 4 emeralds. None of the Sonic characters can count, apparently.
No.
God, Genesis Sonic is an interesting one too, because that's a case where, like, you know, Japan had the one Sonic design, and America, they kind of redesigned him. And I feel like what I've seen of European Sonic art from the early 90s is kind of this weird mismatch where it sometimes looks more like one, it sometimes looks more like the other. And then Genesis Sonic 3, I don't even know what they're going for on that one.
And yet I still like it more than American Sonic somehow.
American Sonic is pretty ugly.
I have weird feelings about our box 4 3D Blast.
Oh, with
where
front
it's
facing Sonic? I hate this one.
Yeah.
It scared me as a kid.
Yeah,
I didn't
this
like it.
one.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. I was in like a supermarket as a kid, and I saw the PC version of that with Sonic just staring down at me. I said to my dad, "Dad, I need that. I need that. I need Sonic to look me down at all times."
He just
Yeah,
spoke to you. He said, "Buy me."
It might have shown up in like Mega Collection Plus bonus stuff, but like I think I was scared of this. I didn't like this.
I mean, he looks terrifying. He looks like that that is not a neutral expression. Those are like eyes have been wide open for like
It is
13 hours.
Quills are doing something.
Yeah, he looks like he just got out of the wash or something. Like everything's wrong. Like that's a weird case too, because 3D Blast is just a game with a lot of like odd artwork associated with it. I was talking to some friends about this the other day, but it already kind of has its own like very distinctive looking Sonic model for a lot of the promotional art. There's some 2D art that's kind of based on that model. And then there's some 2D art that just looks like no other Sonic art, where it's like almost Sonic Adventure art, but not quite. Everyone's like super noodly. I think they used some of this on the Japanese box art, if I'm not mistaken. So
Yeah, I recognize that from a soundtrack CD
It's
as well.
the Sonic
Yeah.
R soundtrack, but then they give him green eyes, I think.
I think the Sonic R soundtrack literally uses like a Sonic Adventure render.
Oh, that's a
Find
different thing. I got mixed up in my head. That's
Maybe it's
probably
the
3D
3D
Blast
Blast
art,
soundtrack?
though. Yeah,
Yes, I think it was
Sonic-
the 3D Blast soundtrack.
Yeah.
Sonic
Sonic
R
R
soundtrack
one.
using adventure art is really funny though.
Oh, yeah, that's the
I was
first time
done
he's got
eating.
green eyes.
When did the soundtrack come out? I might look into this.
Huh.
I was I feel like I was talking about this with Will the other day because I was playing Sonic R, as one does when they don't know where their life is going, and we were talking about like the release date of it because I was like, oh, this is like 96, obviously. It's 97. It came out like pretty close to Adventure, all things considered.
That's wild, because Adventure was the following year in Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't like, oh, like really early 97. It was late 97. So if I just compare Japanese release dates,
I want to say Adventure was like September 98. I might be wrong.
I know it was September
Ooh.
in the U.S.
Yeah, there's a nutty situation with both of these games actually, where both of them came out in America and Europe before Japan. So if we go by earliest release date on each of them, which is America in both cases, R came out November 18th, 1997, and Adventure came out on September 9th, 1999. Okay, no, never mind. I was reading the year wrong.
Yeah, what are you... I was like, Johnny...
I'm silly.
Being
Yeah,
silly.
that doesn't even make chronological sense because
I do need to read...
international release, but
I do need to read this inspirational quote on the... probably the Japanese version of the OST CD.
oh, go for it.
Reach for a new dimension. Ready for a new excitement. Road leads you to a new world. Rivals are here. Race it for the victory. R is it.
That goes actually unreasonably hard. I might need to make that my
Rivals
desktop back.
are here.
Rivals are here is so scary. It's like, whoa. They just wanted every sentence to start with R, and it's like, oh, rivals. What are the rivals doing? They're here. They're at the door. Knock, knock. Like, yeah. If I'm thinking about this correctly, actually, I'll just go by Japanese release dates. R came out in early December of '97, and Adventure came out also December '98. So barely over a year between the two. Like a year
nuts.
and 2 weeks. It's something. It's just. I just really wonder sometimes about how that game was perceived when it came out, because I'm like, damn, this game, like, kind of looks nice. It has a good vibe, but then it has a good vibe for the gaming, some might say. But then you try to play it and you're like, oh. But yeah,
This sure was a game envisioned for F1 cars before Sonic.
You can feel it, especially when you hit the accelerate button. I will never forgive them for putting Amy in a car. I will never forgive them. What was I gonna say? Oh, I thought of this while, looking at the release dates. Another thing I know about gaming in PAL regions generally is a lot of the time, if you did end up getting a game, it would release way later than Japan and America. Are there any like specific instances you can think of where you were like really excited for a game, and then it's like, nope, you gotta wait like 6 months?
There's a huge one, yeah. Super Smash Brothers Brawl. I remember, I think that came out in 2008, and I want to say that released in America in either February or March.
Definitely March.
Okay. My birthday's in March, and I went to get a freeloader disc for the Wii before they were patched out, and I asked my parents to import Brawl for me, and that was one of the first games I imported, because the European release date, if I remember correctly, was June, and that's only 3 months. But for a game like Brawl, like Super Smash Brothers, 3 months feels like an eternity.
Yeah.
Because everyone on the internet's talking about how cool Sonic and Snake are, and you're just sitting there just twiddling your thumbs, being unable to partake in any of this. It was the first online Smash, like Subspace Emissary, all the cutscenes were online. I could not wait. So that was a huge one that I had to just bypass, because there was no way I can wait for Smash.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like especially in the internet age, where you could just, I don't know, see all of it happening. It's very much the Squidward mournfully looking out the window meme. Like, oh, everyone else is having fun, and now I'm getting it, and it's 3 months later, so the hype has died down a little bit.
Yeah.
It's real kick in the sand, or sand kicked in the eyes moment. According to Wikipedia, Australia and Europe both got it in June. Australia got it a day before Europe. Just insult to injury.
Yeah.
It's their time zone advantage.
Yeah, I can't believe it.
But this would happen with the majority of games, though. Like, it's rare that a European release was day and date. If it wasn't like a few weeks after, it was months. Sometimes it was a year. And in the case of many like Super Nintendo RPGs, it just never happened.
Right.
Like
yeah.
the bulk of Super Nintendo greats just didn't come to Europe. Like we got Secret of Mana, which is great. We did not get Mario RPG. We did not get Chrono Trigger. We did not get Final Fantasy 6 or 4. We just missed out on pretty much everything. Like Final Fantasy wasn't really a thing here until 7, and Dragon Quest wasn't really a thing here until 8.
It's wild to think about. I know in the case of Mario RPG too, you didn't get to play that until I think the Wii Virtual Console, which was like what?
And they charged an extra 100 Wii points. It was 900. It was shown as a special import title, so you've got to pay 900 rather than 800 Wii points.
That's a case too where I don't think. I mean, I know some European translations either are done from scratch or, they'll change like a thing or two. But I feel like that was a pretty untouched release, if I'm remembering correctly.
I'm pretty sure it's just the American ROM, yeah.
Yeah, maybe some, dimming of the flashing, as they do with every game, but probably nothing crazy. Yeah, I'm checking the regional differences. Cutting Room Floor really is my best friend, and not a lot. Oh, There is one virtual console change listed other than the actually there's three. One is just some spell animations were toned down because bright flashing lights, called that one. A couple rocky floors and cliffs had their color palettes changed, and there is one line of dialogue that's altered because in the original American release, Krakow calls someone a bugger, which you can't do in Europe. So
no, you can't do that, Croco.
You can't. That's not okay. So they changed it to pest.
Let's watch out. Kamek from Mario Party 8's got something special to say.
Oh no! That's a Kappa Mikey moment if I've ever heard one. Yeah, that's a weird one too, because I know that was a case where, for those of you who don't know, Kamek in Mario Party 8 uses a word that in America, especially at the time, was not really deemed that offensive, but in Europe is, to my understanding, more or less a slur.
So, as Jonii brought up, one of the characters in the Nicktoons show, Kappa Mikey, loved saying that word in Season 1, and
Yes.
I have a friend from New Zealand who did know about that show, and he was like, oh, is that the show where someone keeps saying a slur in it? And it's like, great.
Well, it's
you're right.
hilarious because there's 2 seasons of that show, and overnight in the second season, she just never uses it again. So I think someone got it and was like, "Hey, we have to like bring this shit international. You can't be saying that word," which is really funny that they felt the need to change it at that point. One wonders. But yeah, with Mario Party 8, I know that game. Because it was just using the American translation, that was recalled, and I don't know if that was the big sort of outward buffer effect, but my understanding is that a lot of British English translations of Nintendo games now just have completely unique translations.
Such as, like Splatoon 1, which is boring compared to the US translation.
Oh yeah, isn't it like the DJ, the boss at the end? His dialogue isn't as witty or flavorful. It's just very, very direct.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much just a raw translation of Japanese, and that was kind of the route they took with a few games. So America would get their more, a more Americanized localization, whereas Europe would just sort of get the Japanese one, just sort of very, just taken very literally to English. So like Triforce Heroes was another example, and in the American one they went quite memey. There's like a lot of like actual meme culture references in the American script, whereas the European one was just like it's just Zelda.
Yeah,
Straight,
there was something going on with that sort of era of 3DS games where they just sort of snuck a couple memes in there here and there.
Oh, I mean, I feel like that started a couple years earlier, and it was really intense during that period, but I don't think it ever went away. Nintendo localizers, at least for the American end, really just like sneaking things in. I
feel like...
Yeah, go ahead.
I haven't seen anyone complain about it of recent, so it's probably more tasteful now than it was back when they were putting in whatever Triforce Heroes was doing, because I definitely remember that.
I'm trying to remember. John, do you remember any of the specific memes included in Triforce Heroes?
I remember there was like a Doge meme or something.
Yeah,
it was
really?
like, these ruins are so abandoned, so old, such wow, or something like that.
I found it. I found the comparison betwixt the American and European translation. So European, and that may be precisely why the ancient ruins I encountered had been left undisturbed for me to explore. American translation. Still, coming here has at least afforded me the rare chance to explore these ancient ruins. So ancient, such ruin.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of other ones, because the first one I kind of was aware of, which is minor in the grand scheme of things. Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, someone calls you a noob pretty immediately.
Oh, well, I mean, I could go earlier than that. Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga has the Hammer Bros who talk in leak speak.
Was that Super
Oh, that's
Star
right.
Saga? I thought that was.
Or was it Bowser's Inside Story? I don't remember.
It's one of the Mario.
It's one of those. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that one up. It's not a meme exactly, but shoutouts to Paper Mario: The Origami King, which has a reference to the indie band Pup for some reason. Toad just name drops like 3 of their songs in quick succession, which is
That's wild.
someone was having a good
Oh.
time.
Pokemon Let's Go did something similar, where there's like a bunch of trainers at the end of the game, and they named some of them after like Game Grumps and a few other just like popular people.
It's the one I recall, the Game Grumps one. It was an evolution line, and each different Pokemon, they were like Aaron, Dan, and Ross.
That's right.
I'm trying to think. I know there have been other like inside things. I'm just trying to think of other ones. Pokemon has had a couple. In I think Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, there's a photo taking mode, and one of the possible reviews or replies you can get for your picture is 7.8 out of 10. Too much water.
Yuck, that kind of.
I didn't hear about that. That's very good.
That's a pretty solid one.
Yeah,
Pokemon in general has a few. Pokemon likes to kind of self-reference its own memes. There's the famous NPC from Red and Blue who says, like, I love shorts, they're comfy and easy to wear. And in Black and White too, there's a girl who says, this dress is comfy and easy to wear.
Yeah.
So that's one where I think it comes through a lot. I want to say a lot of the Mario RPG games have stuff like that, but I haven't played a ton. I will give them some shit for the recent American release of the Mario RPG remake on Switch, which is very faithful, very good, very solid game. But they removed the Bruce Lee name drop from the original translation. And I was genuinely extremely disappointed. That's like my favorite line in the game.
Yeah. It's a funny translation because they're a bit more straight to the Japanese text, apart from when they don't want to be. Like sometimes, like there's that line about Toad with a bazooka, and they're like, yeah, let's just keep that one in.
Yeah.
But they draw the line at Mr. Lee.
Mr. Lee. It's sad to see. You hate to see it. This is the type of thing that you'd think would incite some type of fandom flame war in the depths of Twitter, but I luckily have not seen it. So I'll just carry that with me to my grave.
We can make a petition. Like, we can do that right now.
The Bruce
Bring
Lee
Bruce
petition.
Lee back from the dead.
Where did he go? Nintendo, you got to acknowledge the GOAT. Come on. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any other like super odd regional differences. I don't recall any of the specific ones, but I know Smash 4, all of the trophies had different translations amongst the American and European versions, and some of them are like almost exactly the same, and then some of them just get kind of weird with it in one version. But I don't remember in what way is the problem.
Yeah, for the most part, we tend to have parity with English, but there's a couple of games that just get a bit weird, like Advance Wars on the DS, I forget which one. They just decided to localize it twice for some reasons. There's 2 different English versions of that. And I guess just general spelling, like we put U's in our words a lot. So Sonic Colors is called Sonic Colors over here.
I was gonna say I've definitely screwed a couple people up by posting the European box art. They're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, Sonic Colors.
But Paper Mario Color Splash still doesn't have a U. So you walk into the stores and you just see Color Splash. Like, where's Color?
What is this? You wonder if if different companies have different like general like rule like style guide things there, where it's like Sega of Europe, it's like, okay guys, if we have the word color in our game, we need to make sure that we're getting it right. And Nintendo's just like, who cares? Why does it matter?
I mean, even Game Boy Color doesn't have a U in over here, and that must have messed up a bunch of kids' interpretation of how you spell color.
I was gonna say there has to have been like some parents who were mad about that. Like, hey, where's the U?
Where's our U?
It's not on my Game Boy. I don't know where it is.
You have to get a Wii U to get the U in.
That's what it is. But then,
Yeah.
if you take that U, then you end up with just a Wii.
Oh no.
You can never.
That's why it failed. Everyone was just so confused. Like, where's the U go? Is there a U?
Everyone's taking the U out of their Wii U, and it's like, where'd all these Wii's come from?
This didn't happen with the PS2. Everybody knows what a 2 does.
I'd like to think so. Did Europe have any type of situation like America had with the Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest games where the numbering got screwed up, or did you just like one day get Dragon Quest 8 and that was everyone was like, okay, yeah, Dragon Quest 8, the first one?
Well, our Dragon Quest 8 isn't called Dragon Quest 8. It's just called Dragon Quest Journey of the Cursed King. So if you look up the box art, there's just a big blank space where the 8 should be, and they didn't really didn't really accustom for that. So it's just a weird amount of empty space between the brand and the subtitle. And they did that again for Dragon Quest 4 on the DS, which was just called Dragon Quest Chapters of the Chosen. But then after that, we just got like 5 and 6 and 9, so that we just jumped straight in after that. But yeah, 4 and 8 were our weird origins with no numbers in.
That's got to have been confusing when it was retroactively Dragon Quest 8. Although I suppose the internet was there to help.
Yeah, but otherwise, I think we're mostly in the same boat as you guys. With Final Fantasy VII, like that just appeared out of nowhere. So this is suddenly the 7th game in a series we've never had before. But yeah, not too different over there.
Okay, that does make sense. Because it makes sense in that it doesn't make sense. Because I'm sure people were like, oh god, what do we just call it 7? This is just gonna make more problems later. That must have been pretty sick if you guys ended up getting like Final Fantasy Origins and Anthology, because it's like, oh, here they went.
Oh
yeah, it all makes sense now.
I have remembered a very interesting regional difference of US versus Europe.
Hit us with it.
So, in the hit game SSX Tricky, snowboarding classic, alright, there's the character Mac, and he's like some like New York kid or whatever, I don't know where he's from, but in the European version, he's replaced by his cousin from Germany named Marty for some reason.
That's so funny.
It's just like, oh yeah, the European market doesn't like Mac. We gotta make his German cousin who wears the same stuff he does.
Gotta get the rep. I mean, that's an interesting thing with SSX in general, because Japan, I don't think, changed any of the characters, but in America, it's like, oh, Elise is on the cover. Elise is kind of the main one. In Japan, it's just Kaori every time.
Yeah, and Kaori's unlocked from the start in the Japanese version, unlike in the US where you have to get a couple gold medals.
So the Japanese version is the superior version, is what I'm hearing. Am I correct in remembering that in the Korean version, they just say that Kaori is Korean instead of Japanese as well?
That could be
I
real.
feel like I've read that. I don't know if that's actually true. So if you're listening to this, fact check that before you go repeating it.
Speaking of Korean differences, their version of Mario Galaxy is just called Super Mario Wii, and they doctored like on the you know when you put the disc in and the Wii splash screen comes up and Mario goes like Super Mario Galaxy, whoa! Yeah. They just replaced that with the long jump sound, so he goes Super Mario Wii.
That's a real YTP moment there that owns.
Yeah, the classic sentence mixing moment. That does remind me of the very classic tutorial in
Sunshine.
Yeah. The 3D
press
All-Stars
the
version,
button.
Where they change it because it's not the GameCube buttons. Press the button. Very good. Some of Nintendo's reuse of voice clips is truly astounding to behold. I was beholding anew today how Luigi's voice in Melee is just Mario sped up. Like they didn't need to do that, but they were like, oh fuck it, we got like 8 months. Another regional difference thing I just thought of, and I'm curious if you'd know any more examples, is I know at least a couple of the Guitar Hero games have slightly different set lists depending upon which region you're playing. I know especially the DS games for some reason swap a bunch of the songs around. So let me just find
games that I know for certain do that are like Donkey Konga and I think a couple DDR.
Yes.
Oh, DDR. That in Europe is called Dancing Stage.
Dancing Stage.
That's right. Yeah.
And the fun thing about the first Dancing Stage arcade game is that one of the songs has 3 notes at once in it for some reason. Which
How?
you can't do that with your legs.
You gotta use your hands. You're playing Twister, basically. That makes me wonder, like, who charted that, because I feel like the original devs wouldn't have done that.
I think it was for a song that was literally only in, like, that version, because it's just like, who cares? Just like, whatever.
No one's gonna be playing this anyway. Let's just knock it out. It's like, what? What do you mean? Let's see. I'm checking the DS Guitar Heroes, the most important ones. Ah, yes. Okay, wait, what about Band Hero on the DS? Very good, okay. So just as a brief example, damn, yeah. So the North American version of Band Hero on the DS, a game that I'm sure all of our listeners have played extensively, you got a couple exclusive songs. You have, I'll just list a couple as examples. A-Punk by Vampire Weekend, Crazy Little Thing Called Love by Queen, Hungry Like the Wolf by Duran Duran, Troublemaker by Weezer. None of these are in the European version, which has different exclusive songs, which include Feel Good Inc. by Gorillaz, Fly Away by Lenny Kravitz, My Favorite Game by the Cardigans, and She Will Be Loved by Maroon 5. What's interesting is a lot of these songs, to me, seem like they're popular in both regions.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, yeah, just put Feel Good Inc. in there. Americans don't know that song. It's like, what? Yes, we do. What are you talking about? Huh? Do Europeans not know Queen? I'm pretty sure they do.
That's wild.
Yeah, I don't know if that was... Because some of these, it's like, I get it. The Cardigans aren't really very popular over here. There's a Lily Allen song. There's like a Last Shadow Puppet song. Whatever. But I wonder if some of these might just be like some kind of rights ordeal. Because it's like, I don't know. I think A-Punk and She Will Be Loved are pretty palatable wherever you go. But maybe that's just me. I don't think many of the console games had this sort of issue.
I can't think of it. I don't think so.
No, I don't think it's Guitar Hero, but I think there are some rhythm games where instead of swapping songs around, they would add songs depending on the region. I believe it's Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 in the Korean version adds some K-pop songs, which
because
really
you could play as members from that band in that version.
It adds the playable characters too. That's right.
And if you beat the game with them, it crashes the game because there's no ending video for them.
They nailed it. They knocked it out of the park.
It doesn't happen very often, but because a lot of games came out later in Europe, sometimes they would add more stuff to the European version. So like with Metal Gear Solid 3, Subsistence and Snake Eater, they added the European difficulty, which is just like a extra hard mode. And there's a few other like little extras in there. I can't recall what they are exactly, but that's one of them at least.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting example of just sort of adding more to that game. But I think it might have still been 50 hertz, so it doesn't exactly make it the best version, but it's a different version.
It's a give and take.
Yeah.
There's definitely not necessarily Europe, but Kingdom Hearts was absolutely like that. We're in the first Kingdom Hearts game released in Japan. Oh yeah, here's your super boss, the Phantom. And then when it came out in the US, they're like, okay, now you guys get to have Sephiroth. And then they put it back into Japan. It's like, okay, here's all this extra bonus content that they don't get. Haha, just kidding.
Well, there's a lot of things like that where a game will be localized and they'll either just like clean it up or add things, and then it'll get brought over to Japan. Like Sonic Adventure had that happen as well.
Yeah.
The Shindo Pack versions of some games are really weird, where they would re-release 64 games in Japan with Rumble Pack support, and I don't think there were that many, but I looked into like the Wave Race 64 one for the video I did, and there's just like a couple like basically entirely superfluous differences. Like I don't think it really meaningfully adds much other than the Rumble Pack support, but it's like, oh, we re-recorded the announcer dialogue. And it's like, okay, but why? I don't know if there was a particular need to do that.
There's a very interesting version of Mario Brothers for the NES, and it's called it's part of the Classic series, which is just like It's like Nintendo Selects, kind of.
Sure.
But in Europe, in I think specifically Germany and maybe Spain as well, maybe Italy too, not in the UK as far as I know, they released this version here. And I got my hands on it not that long ago. And it is fundamentally not Mario Brothers for NES. It's like a brand new version of it. So the physics are completely different. It controls much more like the GBA games, where you can like freely move around in the air rather than being dedicated to your jump once you jump. There's new animations. There's all those sort of cutscenes from the arcade version where they introduce new enemies. All that stuff's in there. So this is just like a totally different version of Mario Brothers on the NES compared to what they always re-release. But for some reason, they've never re-released this one.
That's really weird to me because NES Mario Brothers is a little bit hard to go back to.
It is, yeah. But this is much better. But for some reason, it's just stuck on the NES in a couple of European countries.
Yeah. When did this come out? Did you say?
I don't know exactly when it came out. If I had to guess, I would say I'd say 1990, but I have no idea.
Yeah.
We can find out though.
Yeah, I was just thrown off because the artwork on the front is like way more modern than I'm used to.
Yeah, that's like that's Super Nintendo era art.
1993.
So super late.
Yeah, super late.
That's really late era NES games like that are always really interesting to me because I know a lot of Namco arcade games initially had like Tengen releases where they were unlicensed, and then like right at the tail end of the NES, they're like, wait, no, Ms. Pac-Man is on here officially now. It's 1993. Do you want to play Ms. Pac-Man? And it's like, I mean, sure, like might as well get it out there, but one wonders the demographic. Like I have to wonder if they got a good return on that investment coding an entirely new version of Mario Brothers in like 1993.
Yeah, it's so bizarre, and just for Europe, just for a few countries in Europe.
Yeah, like stuff like that. I mean, I might extend our timer a little bit because
I have more things. I have more things I want to talk about. I was thinking about something.
Yeah, I have at least two. One is just hostage. Oh yeah, no sleep for John tonight. Either John, I guess. But no, I was gonna say that's just an interesting piece too. Is either Europe exclusive games or games that fit into the weird sort of area where Japan and Europe got them but not America. There was a Sailor Moon DS game released, I think, specifically in Italy for some reason, which is interesting.
Jonii, we should hold that because my tangents are completely unrelated, and I think this will be a very, very interesting topic, but I need to get these out of the way first.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Hit it up. I'll put a pen in mine.
When you were a kid in 1999, were you a Mickey Mouse 4, Magical Labyrinth kid, Real Ghostbusters kid, or Garfield Labyrinth kid?
Oh my god, I didn't even think about
Shout out to Crazy Castle and how it's so many different things all at once.
It's wild.
And the other thing I had was about Ape Escape 2. Ooh, so, on the PS4 and, like, PS Plus, the backwards, like, compatibility, whatever, who cares, release of Ape Escape 2 is for whatever reason the European version.
Ooh, when we got our own dub.
It is in fact that dub. So you don't get like Ash Ketchup.
You don't get Ash and Misty.
Ash Ketchup, good job.
No, you go.
And Misty.
Oh no, the apes are loose. We better stop them. We better.
And they didn't.
That's how they all talk.
And they didn't even bother localizing the names. All of their names are just their Japanese names in that dub. Yeah. It's so funny.
It's nutty. I got Pokemon coming up. Just brief aside. Shout out to the UK version of the Pokerap, which just replaces one of the vocalists for some reason. Don't know how that happened. Do you? I don't know how big of a Pokemon guy you are. Do you know if that version is on like any of the CD releases or anything, or did they just opt for the American one?
I am generally pretty big into Pokemon, but I don't know about that. Ooh. But that's so funny.
I'll have to dig it out. Yeah, it's weird because the other one, it's just the original track. I think it's they replaced the rapper. I'm not. It's a weird thing. I don't even know.
This guy wouldn't fly in the UK.
Yeah, it's like no.
You can't have him.
We got to change it to someone who's got just like less of an American dialect, I suppose. But he doesn't even sound like that different, so it's weird. I don't know. I don't even know if that was for all airings of Pokemon in the UK or if that was just for a specific version. I just know that it's sitting on YouTube somewhere. It exists. But yeah, that's God, like international dubs are like a whole other piece. Because there's
That's for
I'm sure many
the sequel
rabbit hole.
podcast.
If I look into it more, because I know for a fact there's some weird oddities with a couple of them. All I can think of off the top of my head is like a lot of 2010s Cartoon Network stuff being a lot more heavily censored in Europe compared to America, which is pretty funny.
Oh, sure, yeah. Another different dub is Professor Layton had different dubs.
Really?
So in America, Luke's all like, "Oh, hi, Professor. Oh, what's going on here?" Whereas in the UK, he's just like an all British guy, not trying to like sound like a Cockney little boy. So that's funny. But what I find interesting too, though, is not very many games up until now were really dubbed in the UK or Europe. That's more of a modern thing. Like we look at like RPGs now, and we've got Dragon Quest, we've got Final Fantasy 16, we've got Xenoblade. But it would be quite rare for Japanese media to be dubbed in anything but American. And I think Xenoblade might have been a big push for that, and that only really happened because it was the only option. America refused to localize that game, and so Europe did on a much cheaper budget. But that kind of became the DNA of that series, and it's just stuck since then. And the only game in Xenoblade to do an American dub is X, and I don't think that one's quite as iconic for its performances.
No, it's as someone who hasn't really touched any of the Xenoblade stuff, but has friends who are deeply into it, X is definitely the one that kind of falls under the radar for a lot of reasons. And I feel like that's one too where I don't know what any of the characters from that sound like. I know what characters from the other three sound like. Yeah, that's interesting to kind of consider how much of like a recent development that is in a lot of ways. Because it's like, oh, it's the Wii, but it's like, yeah, it took until the Wii for that to, like, later end of the Wii, for that to really become more commonplace. It's sort of...
And now we've got Atlas doing, like, Metaphor as a British dub, and that's the first time Atlas have ever done that. I find it really interesting because in a lot of dubs you start recognizing the same actors, which isn't a bad thing. They're all great at their job.
Yeah.
But it's just nice to have a bit more of variety in dialects and accents, in just general tone. Because like generally British acting and American acting is quite different in how performances are sort of portrayed. And it's nice just seeing that bleed its way into games to get this very different feel. I think for for fantasy settings like FF16, it kind of fits a little bit better in my opinion.
Yeah.
But in other ways, you know, I couldn't imagine 7 with a British dub though. Like
right.
That would just be weird.
Yeah. I think it's the type of thing where, like you said, I think just sort of on a case by case basis having the broader range of dialects and of voice actors just is really cool, because I'm definitely kind of a voice acting nerd, and sometimes now I can watch something or hear something and just be able to tell like where it was dubbed. Like,
oh yeah,
it'll be like I hear something and I'm like, this is Canada because I recognize these two voice actors and they're saying oops, I'm sorry. So that'll happen. There's the timer. I'm gonna give us I think like 10
we
more
gotta
minutes.
talk all about European exclusives to round it all out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're just gonna keep going until the end of time.
it's true. It's
Just keep extending that timer.
yeah. It'll be like days later. It'll be like, let me just toss 5 more minutes on the timer.
Don't you guys love the vast
Always
array of
follow up.
SingStar games on the PS2?
Oh hell yeah!
Is that another?
That was our bread and butter.
Is that another situation where Europe got a bunch of exclusive ones?
There was
Yeah.
so many SingStar
both-
games.
Both SingStar and Buzz had so many games that didn't come to America.
Dude,
Yeah.
I can't believe we never got SingStar the Wiggles. What a shame.
I'm upset to this day. I'm gonna have to import like a PAL PS3 and like a power converter so it doesn't sonic toaster my house.
Buzz was a huge one. You couldn't walk into a European household and not see a pair of Buzz buzzers in the corner. I'm not even exaggerating. As a kid, going around someone's house, they always had buzzers. Buzz was buzzing around here.
Buzzing around. That was. Yeah. No, I'm looking at the game list. I don't even know.
We definitely got a PS3 Buzz game because I know there's a Buzz controller somewhere in my house.
Let me just Control F N A and look through this list of games section really quick. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We got 6, which is more than I was expecting. Europe and Australia. Oh my god. Over a dozen.
Yeah.
And then there was Buzz
There's a lot
Jr.
of Buzz out there.
A lot of Buzz. It's interesting too to me because it wasn't as big a deal over here, but there were still like I feel like that type of game and that type of controller were still kind of a thing because we had a couple.
Played Disney Smarty Pants or whatever it was.
Disney Smarty? What are you talking about? Disney
okay, there was a Wii
Pants?
game called Smarty Pants. I think there was a Disney version of it.
Oh, did that come with like a buzzer?
I don't think so, but listen, I'm talking about weird quiz show games.
Oh, sure. No, I was gonna bring up. There were a couple Seen It video games, like Seen It the DVD board game, and the Xbox 360 versions did come with buzzers that are effectively like buzz controllers. And they suck, and I hate them because you need to plug in an IR sensor to your 360. And still
an IR sensor. That's wild.
Yeah, they work like TV remotes. They're very dumb.
Oh, I remember these.
Yeah. So the 360 big button pad on the Wii, you just use the Wii remote, which makes more sense.
Yeah.
But yeah,
there were some PS2 games out there that sort of bolstered that they support the buzzer. I think Who Wants to Be a Millionaire was one of them.
Oh,
on the box, it would just say like supports the buzzer.
No way.
And that meant you had to go out and run and buy it, of course.
Yeah, I mean anything to use the buzzer.
Do you think Cheggers Party Quiz supports the buzzer?
You're just saying words. You're just saying things that I tried typing that into Google, and the first autocomplete Cheggers Party Quiz controversy.
what did Cheggers do?
What's the controversy? Game received negative reviews from critics. Damn, what a shame.
The controversy. It was bad.
It wasn't very good. r/lost media. What? Hang on. Not sure if this is commonly talked about here, but a game for PS2, Wii, and Windows came out called Cheggers Party Quiz. In the files of the original Windows computer version of the game, there was a video file with the thumbnail of Keith Chegwin, the English comedian who hosted the game, naked. Although no NSFW things are shown, he giggles before beginning to scream at the player. What?
That's so funny.
That's a rabbit hole. Oh my god. Okay, well I'm just gonna drop.
Is that the Cheggers controversy?
I think that's it. But there's just like a Reddit post. There's not like a. Oh, there's a couple.
Really naked after all?
Hoax? Hang on.
This isn't like South Park and Tiger Woods. What a shame.
That's a banger. Hidden files in video games is a whole other rabbit hole. I guess I'll do this side tangent before briefly going into the Europe exclusives and the rare Europe Japan exclusives. Classic mini consoles. Some of them have regional differences, although looking at the NES, North America and PAL share their game selection. Japan is the only one that's different.
Japan had a few like second runs of the NES. I think there was like a Shonen lineup they had at one point.
The Shonen Jump Edition, which is a very weird one. I'm just trying to see. I thought the Genesis Mini maybe had a couple, or the Mega Drive Mini. Let's see. No, North America and Europe do actually share a game selection. Interesting. Okay, well, never mind. European exclusives. What games didn't we get? What games am I furious about?
I can think of lots of games that released in Europe and Japan, but just full-on Europe exclusives, it's trickier to think.
We got the PS2 releases of all the data design shovelware, you know.
Oh,
Oh,
I mean,
yeah?
I suppose that's true. Like the Monkey Ball
Did you know
knockoffs.
the PS2 version of Gingerbread Man does not have a tutorial level? It is only a 3-level game.
Let's
Thank
go.
you, data
Oh.
design.
Can beat it in 2 minutes.
Beat it in 10.
Rare other case. While I'm thinking about it, I was thinking, aren't Dr. Mario 64 and Pokemon Puzzle League like that? No, they're North American, European. In the case of Dr. Mario 64, also apparently South Korean. Oh wait, no. That's
so-
because of Switch Online.
Ah, okay. Yeah, Japan technically got Dr. Mario 64 on the GameCube
Puzzle
in
Collection,
Nintendo Puzzle
right.
Collection.
But Pokemon Puzzle
yeah,
League, I guess
we-
they got the weird Panel de Pawn and Puzzle Collection that is kind of Pokemon Puzzle League, but it's not Pokemon.
Yeah, because that
themed.
was meant to release in N64, but
Yeah.
didn't. So
That's-
yeah, we kind of got that exclusive.
That's a very kind of weird tale.
Are you
which
telling
I'm
me
sure
you
I'm
don't
gonna
want to
be
play all
going
those
down the rabbit hole
asterisks
with.
and obelisk games? Come on.
I forgot about those. Every time you look through ROMs in a legal manner, there's like a million asterisks and obelisk games.
Oh, yeah.
It's only Europe. It's like every time. Yeah, no, Actually, it looks like Europe might not have gotten Dr. Mario 64 either. It might be specifically
That might be
America,
right.
'cause it
We
was so
definitely got
late.
Pokemon Puzzle
Are you
League.
telling me
Yeah.
you don't want to play all of the video games in the Hugo series of games? Come on, man.
Our friend Pixel will tell you all about those.
I know they're
Going
not
slowly
good. I already know.
Oh, I watched his videos, so I know. But yeah, I'm trying to think because I feel like in the case of both these games, it's like it was a really late 64 release. I feel like Europe occasionally suffers with things like that, where it's a late game for a console.
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to think of a specific example. Because Xenoblade is almost a reverse, where it's like, oh no, Europe's getting it, go. But yeah,
The FIFA 14 on PS2.
no.
Or no,
Did
it
that
was,
not-
That was
it was
a big one.
international. It was something in 2014.
Interesting.
Yeah, we got some like European exclusive versions too. Like Puyo Puyo Fever was a GameCube exclusive in America, but that was on everything here. It
That's
was on
right.
PS2. It was on Xbox.
I know that a racing game that I had as a kid, Dakar 2, on the
Dakar
GameCube,
2?
it came out everywhere, but came out on PS2 only in Europe. Let's go.
Yeah.
Those specific console ports are always kind of weird. Was there? No, I'm trying to think. I think Sonic Gems Collection was specifically on PS2 in like Japan. I don't think
And
that
Europe, I
Oh,
think.
we got that on PS2 here as
Yeah.
well.
You did as well. Okay, never mind then.
That's
Yeah.
another
What
one
the
that I
hell?
should have known.
But there's quite a lot of big games that didn't come to not a lot. There's a handful of big games that didn't come to America, but did come to Europe. Like Game and Watch Gallery started with Game Boy Gallery, which was just Game and Watch Gallery without Mario. It's literally just Game Boy versions of the Game and Watch games in their original forms, just a little bit modernized kind of, but still very low frame. So that was the origin of that series.
I can think
Right.
of Mr.
then
Gimmick.
Mr. Gimmick.
Yeah, Mr. Gimmick.
The Game & Watch stuff I think is interesting because if I'm remembering right, that created like a gigantic naming discrepancy where they didn't know what to call each
Yeah.
game in each region. So it got very confusing very fast.
It did, yeah.
All right.
If you're
that's
wondering
time again.
how I know all of these stupid, pointless facts about all these European weird games, shout out to retroachievements.org. People care a
Oh
lot about
my
these
God.
weird nonsense games.
That's very on brand for you. Given that our timers run out again, I'm gonna just quickly peruse this forum thread, and then I'll see if you guys have any.
I've run out of my tangents for now.
All right.
I'll just shout out quickly, Tingle's Rosy Rupee Land.
Ooh,
We got an
true.
exclusive Zelda
That's
game that didn't come to America.
Yeah, actually, I just
Wasn't
remembered
even
one
thinking of
last
that.
game as well.
Yeah, hit it up.
Gardenscapes on 3DS.
Gardenscapes? What is Gardenscapes?
I don't know what that
You
is.
remember? You know that one ad, like mobile game that has all those ads of like
Ew.
the lock and key, and it's all like clickbait and lies, and it's like the gardening man. but it's actually just like a match 2 puzzle game.
Yeah,
Whoa.
this looks like that's what that is.
Yeah, that came out on 3DS in Europe.
Very good.
Man.
A couple
Gardenscapes.
One wonders. A couple that are just getting mentioned in this NeoGAF thread because that's the most reliable source. Doshin the Giant is one that immediately came to my mind.
Yes. Yeah.
Buzz Music Quiz on PS3. Mega Man: The Wily Wars is definitely a weird one because if I'm remembering right, that got a cartridge release in Europe and it didn't in America.
That's right. It was a part of like Sega Channel in America.
Yes. Hey Daro, somebody says Gregory Horror Show. Do you know?
Oh yeah,
anything
that one did
about
also only come out in Europe and Japan.
That was a game.
A big one's also Vib Ribbon.
I was gonna bring that up because I actually, when trying to legally play games on my PlayStation 1, I was like, oh, there is an American version of, or not American, an English version of Vib Ribbon. So let me try to play that, and ooh boy, the 50 hertz could not get it to play nice with my CRT.
It
so
kinda hurts.
I just bought the Japanese version.
Actually,
That's the way
I think
to
the
go.
thing about Gregory Horror Show is that it uses the same dub voice cast, which is really interesting.
Was it dubbed in America?
Well, they're not British.
They're not British.
I can tell you that much.
Some of them have Wikipedia pages. Let me see if I can figure this out really quickly because I don't recognize any of them. Canada. It was Canada.
Uh-huh.
Many such cases. Shout out to Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures for being dubbed in Canada, except the games, which I believe were dubbed in San Francisco instead, and therefore share none of the same voice cast. Very, very silly.
Weird.
Yeah, it's the interesting case of the show shares voice actors with, like, My Little Pony and Ed, Edd and Eddy and stuff like that, and then the game shares voice actors with, like, Puyo Puyo. It's really weird.
Am I right in saying that if something is produced in Canada, it must be dubbed in Canada?
I think I don't know if that's always the case, but I think pretty much every instance I've seen, yeah. I'm not as familiar with Canadian-specific programming, but yeah, from what I've seen, it seems that way.
Actually, I think that's part of the reason why Sonic Prime had a Canadian voice cast.
That's right. I think that was the deal, is they were like, well, like, I don't know if that's a guideline thing or if it's just easier to do it that way or what, but yeah, that was like a whole thing. It's like, why aren't you using the game cast? It's like, well, it's made in Canada, we'll get a Canadian cast. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
And they were good. There's just like weird little discrepancies like that. The Pac-Man one is particularly jarring because I feel like the show is the predominant thing, so it would make more sense to have the game match that, but what are you gonna do? Neither of them are particularly good. The Altered Beast reboot on PS2. Did that not come out in America?
I don't think I remember the reboot on PS2.
Look this up. I've seen footage of it, but I thought that came out here. No, Japan and Europe. 2005.
We got an exclusive Resident Evil. Resident
Really?
Evil Survivor 2.
Ooh.
It's based on Code Veronica.
That's right.
And you walk around, and Nemesis from 3 appears sometimes. And you have to just sort of find a key and take it to the exit, and that's it. But you're just going through all these Code Veronica maps in first person, and it supports the gun con, the light gun. So that's a pretty cool one.
Yeah, I was gonna ask actually. Gun Survivor 1 on PS1, does the European version support the gun con?
I'm pretty sure it does. Yeah.
The American version doesn't. You just have to use a controller. It sucks. So that's unfortunate, but good for Europe, I suppose. Fatal Frame, the Wii version.
Yes, we call it Project Zero.
Project Zero is the European name. Okay. I was wondering.
Yeah, Project Zero 2 Wii Edition. It's not just like a port either. It's like a full-on remake. They got a new dub. They changed the camera angle to be third person.
They have a lot of the I don't know if it's specifically that game, but I know a lot of the Fatal Frame re-releases also just have Nintendo costumes in them, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Like Maiden of Blackwater had Zelda and Zero Suit Samus costumes.
Yeah, always good. That's something I always love to see. Some Parodius stuff. Yeah. we never got any of that. Yeah. So there's
Another Code R is a pretty big one on Wii. You got that
yeah.
recently in the Recollection.
Yeah, that
Wait
was
a
like a
minute.
big deal. Yeah, what's up? I'm
Sorry,
waiting a minute.
I need to see if... Did this come out? I think it came out in the US. Let me look.
Fighting Vipers 2.
Okay, that one
I'll
did.
never forgive you.
I was thinking of Graffiti Kingdom, but that one came... And the prequel. Magic Penguin did not come out in Europe, actually, so never mind.
Ah.
I was thinking about
Robbed.
those just because that they put Reimu from Toho in them because I think Zune helped with that or
That's
something.
wacky.
And I was like, that feels like a very European Japanese only thing. And it's like, never mind.
Just Japan.
Hey, it did come out. Graffiti Kingdom did come out in Europe though.
Okay, well that's one.
Before the North American version, so.
All right. Well, I've exhausted my list. Do either of you have any other iterations of this topic to bring up before I try to steer the train back to our starting point?
Probotector.
Oh, yeah.
And Lilac Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like the name Lilac Wars, and I'm not sure I've just been disillusioned.
I
by
feel
it.
like
think it's a cool name.
if it really should have just been Star Fox Lilac Wars in North America. That's just cool.
That's cooler than
Yeah,
Star Fox
when
64.
When it came to the 3DS version, though, they just got rid of our Lilac Wars, and it was called Star Fox 64 3D for us too. And they did the same thing with Kirby's Return to
What's this?
Dreamland, which was Kirby's Adventure.
What is this
Wii
new
over here.
game? Kirby's Adventure,
forgot about
new
Kirby's
whatever.
Adventure.
Who cares? It's
Return to
just-
Dreamland.
you could
What
be-
is this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in Lilac Wars, there was an optional feature of Lilac's language, so you can replace the English dub with kind of the Super Nintendo language, but it's not really. It's just kind of the English dub, but mixed up to sound a bit gibberishy. So it's not as cool, but it's an option.
That's kind of nutty that they felt the need to get that in there. Like, I appreciate the effort, but whoa. Oh man, that could be a whole other topic, is games that really just commit to the made-up language thing.
Klonoa, let's go.
Wahoo!
Star Fox Adventures was cool with that, but there would be like Hongjaktor Dinosaur Planet.
General skills.
That was a joke with me and one of my friends for so long, because we played that for like 3 hours one day, and for like a year it would just be like, I don't even remember what the made-up language sounds like. It's like Ikum Bokum General Scales.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I thought the language setting was broken, and I was desperately looking in the manual to see how to fix it. I was like,
What
why aren't they
language is
speaking English? Turns out you gotta beat the game first to do that.
I suppose that's another interesting case, because that game was done by Rare, so it was also dubbed in Europe, and then I think they replaced most of the voice actors after that. But I think they retained Crystal having a British accent. So there we are. All right. Any other comments, questions, concerns, requests to exit the dungeon?
Yeah, none of this really matters because we didn't get Excitebots, so I'll trade all those games for that.
That's true, but you got Fighting Vipers too. Be grateful.
That's true. That's
It's a
true.
banger. It's a banger. So we ended up somewhere. We ended up pretty on topic, but along the way, that seems to be the theme lately, Daro, is we actually do end up fairly on topic, but we go on side tangents on the way.
That's the point of this podcast. Episode 1 was a fluke. I don't know what happened there.
Was that one where we stayed on topic? Or
That was one where we went wildly off topic.
I like that the concept is going wild, and then we've been pretty good about not doing that. we'll have to shake it up. But yeah, I'm trying to. What diversions did we even
There was
get off onto?
we
talked about other
exclusives.
regions a little bit.
We talked about our dubs. We talked about.
It's true.
I mean, at
Talked
first
about
it was all
the
about
UK
frame
poker
rates and CRTs.
That's right, because we were talking about Sonic, so that's where we started.
I think the real NTSC and PAL difference that matters the most is Dennis the Menace, actually. But you know,
I think the biggest NTSC PAL difference is the friends we made along the way.
it's the pals we made along the way.
It's the pals we made along the way. Can we
You
call the
can't
episode
just-
the pals we made along the way?
Yeah, that's the name. You can't ever say that we have NTSC U's along the way. That doesn't make sense.
No, it just doesn't work.
That just sounds like the sequel to the Wii at that point.
Might as well have been. Well, I suppose with that we can wrap it up. Thanks, Jon, for coming on. This has been really fun. Do you have anything that you'd like to throw out there? Either plug or recommend to the fine listeners trapped in this boxcar?
Sure. So if you go on eBay and search in S-Video cable, you'll find my best work there.
svideo.com.
No, I make videos over on Good Vibes Gaming. I'm also doing some acting stuff lately. You can hear me in Cat Quest 3. The demo is currently on Nintendo Switch. And there's some more stuff being announced in like a week or two in the first week of June. So look forward to that.
Hell yeah. Well,
yeah.
Thanks again for coming on. Daro, do you have any closing commentary?
Everybody should play my Super Monkey Ball ROM hack.
Oh, that's right.
Hide and go seek. There's a skip stage function. You'll be able to beat it, I promise.
Sure.
Shout out to, again, retroachievements.org. It's my retro game brain rot that lets me know all of these pointless information trivia facts.
It's good. I was gonna end by saying that I'm not posting right now. Hopefully soon. But honestly, shout out to the cutting room floor. Because that's a good way of finding some quick regional differences if you're in a pinch and you're just curious.
And don't forget, we have to call to action. Rate, review,
subscribe, and leave.
Talk
leave
about your favorite
porch.
Jon Cartwright quotes in the comments.
Yes.
I like the time that he said, "Hello."
That was pretty.
I love that. Yeah,
that was pretty cool.
It's not one that you can recapture very easily, though. It's just like lightning in a bottle.
No, it was pretty instant classic in my mind. But you know, I don't know. I think honestly, having successes both as great as the S-Video and the Hello, like it's rare anyone gets two of those in one.
Be sure to also comment about your favorite Hugo game. There are at least 40 of them or something.
I don't think anyone's got a favorite.
Can we do like a podcast just ranking the Hugo games?
Hey Johnny, new stream idea?
Would we play them all first, or would we just rank them like based on vibes? Because
we don't play them at all. Yeah.
It's like this one's called Hugo 2. I haven't played Hugo 1. D tier.
I don't like the look on this man's face. F tier.
Well, if you want to see another train of thought with this specific lineup, be sure to comment so we can let Jon know to return and rank the Hugo games.
Or other things that are more fun.
No, it's Hugo. I'm stopping the train at Hugo Land. You're ranking Hugo, and you're gonna like it.